Hi everyone, this is topic 7 and it's on the urinary system. And the urinary system is a fascinating and amazing system that I hope you will have a newfound appreciation for by the time you finish this topic. Now, there are several components to the urinary system, but when we think about it, right, we do think about the two little, bean-shaped organs called the kidneys. And they are the ones that, are working constantly to keep us thriving and healthy and to maintain homeostasis. Now, of course, the kidneys make the main excretory waste product of the body. I think you all know that is urine. And whenever I learn about the kidneys or anybody mentions the kidneys, I always feel like I need a drink of water or I need to go to the loo. So going to the loo, you can keep that in mind. And if you're a little bit like me, have a drink of water first, go to the loo, and then settle into this topic. The learning objectives for this first part are to be able to list the major organs of the urinary system and to be able to name the major nitrogenous wastes and state their sources, be able to outline the functions of the urinary system, be able to describe the anatomy and functions of the kidney and its placement in the body, and be able to name and describe the structures and functions of the nephron, which is that smallest distinct unit in the kidneys that's capable of producing urine. And we are going to learn about the nephron parts as well. And then finally, be able to describe the circulation in the kidney in general and in the glomerulus. And for those of you that don't know, the glomerulus is a network of capillaries that is absolutely essential for the first part of urine production, which is filtration. And there are about 2 to 3 million of these capillaries evenly distributed across the right and left kidney. Pretty amazing, right? So just by way of introduction, you can read this yourself. Obviously, the urinary system is involved in excreting waste in urine. And its components are the 2 kidneys, the right and left kidneys, the 2 ureters, the 1 bladder and the 1 urethra. And so what are the kidneys doing? Well, as I mentioned, they are working constantly, filtering blood to remove toxins and excess substances and therefore produce this urine, right? This urine then travels through the 2 ureters to the bladder, and the bladder is like a reservoir or a flexible storage tank. It can expand and then it can shrink back when it empties. And it stores that urine until it's ready to be released through the urethra, where it's then permanently removed from the body. Now, learning about the urinary system is not just about understanding how the body works, but it is about appreciating the way the kidneys go about, what they do and the elegant manner in which it does or performs all of its functions. And it's not all about urine production, which I've mentioned previously. The kidneys do lots of different things, from regulating blood volume and blood pressure to maintaining, acid-base balance and therefore maintaining blood pH within homeostatic range. Also, that it's involved in red blood cell production and vitamin D synthesis as well. And the kidneys do all of this, and they're pretty small, right? They're 12 centimeters long, 8 centimeters wide, and 5 centimeters thick. About the size of an adult fist, and with each one weighing about 280 to 340 grams. So there are gender differences between males and females in terms of the weight of the kidneys. But look, and the weight can be variable. But if you think about the kidneys, you think about a tennis ball, they kind of weigh between 1 and 4 tennis ball weights. So look, I really want you to sort of get into this topic. We're going to really explore, as it says there, the wonders of the urinary system. Some of it might be a little bit difficult, but once you get these concepts and you understand what these 2 things are doing all the time, you're going to always remember it. And some of you in later subjects will get to learn lots of things about the kidneys in terms of, if you've taken a Nurofen or an aspirin or some other tablet this morning, the metabolites of those drugs are more than likely going to end up in the urine. And for some of you, you might also learn about diuretics, and those diuretics being, the medications that are used to treat things like hypertension and also heart failure, among other things. So now looking at the major organs of the urinary system, you can see that the principal organs of the urinary system are the right and left kidneys, and sitting on top of the kidneys, of course, are the adrenal glands. So these are the principal organs, and their chief functions are to filter blood and to form urine. Secondly, we have the two ureters, which are those tubes that take that formed urine from the kidneys to the bladder. And the bladder then is this reservoir or the storage tank for urine before it leaves the body. As I mentioned, it's a flexible organ that can expand as it fills up with urine and then shrink back as it empties. And then, of course, we have this one shorter urethra that expels urine from the body. So now let's have a quick look at the functions of the urinary system. Of course, the main one is that formation of urine. We will talk about the composition of urine in a little bit more detail later on, but it mostly contains water, nitrogenous wastes, so these are wastes that contain nitrogen, ions and other organic compounds. Second function here is the regulation of blood volume and blood pressure, and you all know about this. So the kidneys can either conserve water or eliminate it in urine. So if you're in a situation where you haven't taken much water on board, your kidneys have the ability to excrete low volumes of urine with high solute concentration. So you're still getting rid of the waste without losing that water. So when you're dehydrated, that would happen. Vice versa, when you're in a situation where you take on heaps and heaps of water, your kidneys then have the ability to excrete high volumes of dilute urine. Now, the kidneys also secrete renin, and I know you know about renin because it forms part of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone mechanism. So remember, the stimulus there would be low blood pressure, which stimulates renin, which is an enzyme that's made by particular cells in the kidneys that we're going to learn about. And so the end result of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system is an increase in blood pressure. We'll go through that once more so that everybody understands it. Regulation of blood solute concentration, so regulation of the blood osmolarity. So the kidneys have the ability to excrete, excess ions and electrolytes such as sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, and the phosphate ions. Regulation of blood pH, right? If you're in a situation where your blood pH decreases slightly, so it becomes acidic, your kidneys have the ability to secrete those excess hydrogen ions into that forming urine and excrete it. Pretty amazing, right? But they also have the ability to reabsorb this bicarbonate from that forming urine, which then can buffer those free hydrogen ions in the plasma. And all of this will help to maintain acid-base balance of body fluids. The next one, you know about blood cell synthesis through the production and secretion of erythropoietin or EPO. Remember, EPO made by kidney cells, it travels then to the bone marrow where it will upregulate the formation and maturation of red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets, so those formed elements of the blood. And finally, the synthesis of active vitamin D, otherwise known as calcitriol. You've learned about this as well. And calcitriol is made, the first step of it is due to UV exposure of the skin. The second step then occurs in the liver, but the final step occurs in the kidneys, and we get this active vitamin D, which promotes absorption of calcium from the gastrointestinal tract into the blood. And therefore, it's one of those hormones, along with parathyroid hormone and also calcitonin, which we've learned about before, that are involved in regulating calcium homeostasis. So what then is a nitrogenous waste? Well, it's a byproduct of the breakdown of nitrogen-containing compounds like proteins and nucleic acids. And that's how it gets its name, nitrogenous waste from nitrogen-containing compounds. These wastes are primarily formed during metabolism, and they need to be eliminated from the body as they can be toxic. They include urea, uric acid, and creatinine. Now, urea is formed from ammonia. Now, ammonia is produced from protein breakdown, and it is very toxic. And if it builds up in the body, it can, create a situation called ammonium intoxication. And the brain in particular is very sensitive to increasing levels of ammonia. So here comes your liver, which is really important in detoxifying lots of things in the human body. And those liver cells called the hepatocytes convert that ammonia to a less toxic substance called urea. And so your ammonia then is rarely detected in fresh urine, and urea itself is the most abundant nitrogenous waste. Then we have uric acid. Uric acid is formed from nucleic acid catabolism, so from the breakdown of those purines that are found in DNA and RNA, and those purines, of course, being adenine and guanine. Now, uric acid itself, if that accumulates in the body, it can cause a clinical condition called gout. So as it increases in the blood, it can kind of precipitate out of solution to form crystals. And those crystals then can accumulate in joints and stimulate inflammation and cause that gouty pain. Now, for some of you, you'll go on into future subjects and learn more and more about gout. And finally, creatinine, which is that waste product that's formed from creatine phosphate catabolism, which is found in skeletal muscle.